Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, May 1, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season, that's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section, but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below, letting me know what the that's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related questions that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us, according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next 168 hours, that stands for the next 7 days. As well as a focus on Jamaica right here, as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. As we head into Friday morning, we can see that there's going to be rainfall to our north. We also see an abundance of moisture across the Western Caribbean, the Central Caribbean waters, extending into portions of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. And then by Friday afternoon, we see that rainfall in the greens across eastern, central, and western parishes in Jamaica. What does the GFS show? On Friday morning on the GFS, we see rainfall on the south coast, we see rainfall on the north and east coast. Very interesting. Then by the end of the day on Friday, we see rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes. Very interesting. Let's see what Saturday is showing. On Saturday morning, we can see that there's not much of anything across Jamaica. We do see some moisture to the south of us though. Then on Saturday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Saturday morning, rainfall to our south, rainfall to our west, rainfall to our north and east. And then on Saturday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. We also see an abundance of moisture across Cuba and Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and the eastern Caribbean. And we see that on the Euro model as well. Very interesting. Let's see what Saturday is showing. Well, Sunday is showing. On Sunday morning, we see rainfall to our south. Then on Sunday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. The GFS is showing rainfall encompassing the entire island on Sunday. And then on Sunday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What is being shown for Monday morning? On Monday morning, we don't see much of anything across Jamaica, but we do see an abundance of moisture across the Central Caribbean Sea. Then on Monday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Monday has moisture encompassing the entire island in the morning. Then on Monday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes once again. On Tuesday morning, not much of anything is being experienced across Jamaica, but the Central Caribbean into the Western Caribbean definitely wet, as we can see there by the greens and the slight yellows. Then by Tuesday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? On Tuesday morning, rainfall to our west, rainfall to our north and east. Then on Tuesday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes once again. Then we're heading into Wednesday now. Wednesday morning, we see rainfall to our northeast, and we also see an abundance of moisture extending from the eastern Caribbean into the Central Caribbean Sea, into the southwestern Caribbean. Then on Wednesday afternoon, we see that rainfall across sections of eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show for Wednesday morning? On Wednesday morning, we see rainfall to our northwest and east, and lots of rainfall across the Caribbean Sea into the northeastern Caribbean. Then on Wednesday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes once again. I'm not going to be stopping it at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Thursday, May 8th, 2025. We see rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes in Jamaica. Let us see if the GFS is showing the same thing. Definitely. At the same time, let's see, do we have consensus? Well, seems like we don't. Well, maybe we see to 0 on Friday is actually let's say 7 p.m. on Thursday, and we actually see some slight greens, but nothing as robust as what the Euro is showing. And we also see an abundance of moisture across the eastern and northeastern Caribbean right there. Don't see that on the GFS. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of that plays out. And whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. But if we take a look at the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps for the next 7 days, both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement that the most rainfall over the next 7 days should be where we have the dark reds, purples into the pinks that represents anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rainfall. We're talking about anywhere from French Guiana westward, Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, section of western Nicaragua right here. We also see an abundance of moisture across portions of the northern and northeastern Caribbean. We're talking about areas such as eastern Cuba, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, sections of St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, extending all the way down into portions of Guadeloupe right there. However, if we look at the Euro model, the Euro is trying to bring a lot of the rainfall across the central to the northeastern Caribbean Sea. Some of these areas that we shaded across the northern Caribbean definitely shaded in those dark reds, purples, pinks that represent the 2 to 5 inches of rainfall range. So all of these areas that were highlighted could definitely get some amount of isolated flash flooding for sure. But regarding the greens into the yellows into the oranges and the reds that represents anywhere from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall all the way up to 1 inch or more of rainfall. That's going to be expected across much of Cuba, the eastern portion of the Yucatan, Belize, southern Guatemala, much of El Salvador, Honduras, much of central to eastern Nicaragua, the ABC Islands, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, and we can clearly see that both maps here from the Euro and the GFS are in agreement with that, and we know that the chances are higher when both of them are showing the same thing. But regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation forecast maps for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now all the way up until Thursday, May 8th. And we see the greens into the yellows, into the slight oranges that we know based on the key on the bottom that represents anywhere from 15 millimeters of rainfall all the way up to at least 50 millimeters of rainfall. GFS is even more robust, especially across portions of Kingston, St. Andrew, inland areas of some central to western parishes. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of this plays out, and it definitely coincides with the secondary rainy season. We're in the wet, rainy month of May, and whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs on our other social media platforms. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see a ridge of high pressure right here to the east of Georgia, to the east of Florida, another one right here across the northern portion of North Atlantic that we know are responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. And we can see a trough right here as represented by the broken orange lines with an area of low pressure attached to it extending from the northeastern Caribbean all the way up into the northern portion of North Atlantic, and a frontal system right here to the north of that trough extending up into the northern portion, the way northern portions of the North Atlantic. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost the sunlight, we can make out all of what we just saw. First of all, we can definitely see the clouds associated with the area of low pressure and that we mentioned attached to the trough extending down into a portion of the northeastern Caribbean. Look at the cloud showers and thunderstorms associated with it, currently affecting a portion of the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico. We can also see the clouds associated with the frontal system right here to the north of it. We even see what looks like another frontal system right here to the north of that, and we can make out the low level to mid level flow of the clouds being steered from east to west, all courtesy of the ridges of high pressure to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Thursday, May 1, 2025. It was stated that rainfall would have been in the forecast for parts of northern Jamaica on Thursday morning, also affecting sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes during Thursday afternoon. And we know northern Jamaica, we're talking about those parishes like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. While eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew, central parishes, and we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine, while western parishes, and we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? As early as 7:16 a.m., the visible satellite image was posted not only here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, but it was also posted on our Instagram page with it Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So looking at the 7:16 a.m. visible close-up satellite image of Jamaica, we could see that we're definitely getting in on that northeasterly flow, bringing some clouds, and these clouds definitely brought some overcast skies, if not some isolated showers, to the usual northern parishes, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland for sure. If you reside in those parishes, confirm that morning rainfall for us. It was definitely raining there, while elsewhere, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney at that time, definitely experiencing sunny conditions for the most part. Then, at around 1:45 p.m., the visible satellite images were posted, and they highlighted the clouds bringing overcast skies, if not isolated thunder showers, to sections of eastern, central, and western parishes just as predicted. You can see some of these clouds, especially across Portland, sections of Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, sections of St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne. Definitely across eastern, central, and western parishes, so there was no bias for most of the rainfall across the south coast or the north coast. Both coasts got in on some amount of rainfall, for sure, some overcast skies, if not some isolated thunder shower activity. And we saw the sparkling yellow dots in there that we know represent some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes for sure. And if we take a look back at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before we lost the sunlight, we can definitely make out the low level flow. Then we had those clouds building, convection taking place, and then we had the upper level clouds being sheared off towards the east, as this usually occurs. And we can see the upper level clouds even better on the infrared close-up satellite images right here of Jamaica, showing the blues into the greens that represents that cumulonimbus cloud being sheared off towards the east or the east southeast for sure. And we can even make out the sparkling white dots, especially across section of southern Trelawney, southern St. Anne, section of eastern St. Elizabeth, Manchester, northwestern Clarendon. Definitely has some thunderstorm activity across those areas for sure. And even while we're losing all of this, we're still getting on some thunderstorm activity across portions of Portland. They always get that rainfall. And if we take a look at the live camera from See Jamaica's YouTube channel showing the flat bridge in St. Catherine at around 1:28 p.m., we can see that they were definitely getting in on some amount of moderate, maybe some even slightly heavy rainfall for sure at that time. Look at the vehicles crossing the bridge at that time. Definitely soaking rain for sure. Boy, Ray Cobra definitely chilling for the time being. We know that as soon as we get some serious rainfall, all of this nice greenish, clearish kind of color is gonna be changing to a murky, brownish, orangish kind of shade. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. Just open up that YouTube app on your device and type in See Jamaica. They have this live stream all day, every day for your viewing pleasure. Also, Halfway Tree, Crossroads, the panoramic city view. And they're planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology websites, that's the CIMH, we can see that we definitely had the rainfall as represented by the purples, blues, greens, yellows across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes for sure. Definitely had that rainfall across Portland, section of St. Andrew, section of St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne. Definitely had some rainfall, but not everywhere in every parish might have gotten that rainfall. And we definitely have some confirmation of what the weather was like in some of our followers and subscribers areas. We have Active 4081 stating cloudy here in Clarendon with the Jamaica. We have Pansy Williams 5754 stating raining heavily in Mandeville, roads flooded. Oh, I wish I got some clips. We have Aletha Lawrence 09K stating it was raining in Old Harbor. Let's see what the comments on our Instagram platform are showing. We can see that we have Devini 16 stating that it was raining in Hanover at that time. We also have Marlon underscore one god stating cloudy right now. Weather Jamaica. Let's see what our Twitter page is showing. At around 4:39 p.m. we had Fest Genius confirming what the weather was like in his area, stating windy, rainy, lightning and thunder. Same time in my era, Spanish Town. And I really appreciate the comments confirming what the weather was like in you guys' eras for today. And if we take a look at what's happening right now, what is taking place as we speak? Is there anything taking place right now? Let us reload this image so that we have the very latest to show. The latest still image from the Weather Nerds website is showing 0035 UTC, which is actually 7:35 p.m. So this just came out 11 minutes ago, considering that it's 7:46 p.m. right now. And we can make out some milky whitish shades that represent cloud cover across mainly sections of some central to eastern parishes, especially the waters. To the east up there we see some clouds. But do we actually have rainfall underneath all of this? Is it actually raining in St. Anne, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Portland, St. Thomas? Only the Doppler radar imagery or the people who reside there can confirm. If we reload the latest Cuban Doppler radar imagery to confirm what's happening right now, let's also reload the latest Guantanamo Bay Cuban naval radar imagery and the latest Cayman radar. Let's see if we have rainfall happening. The latest Doppler radar imagery is showing 8:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 7:40 p.m. So this just came out 7 minutes ago, considering that it's 7:47 p.m. right now. What do we see? We can actually make out something that looks like rain right here off the coast of Portland. We see some rainfall to the southeast of the island. We see some rainfall across southern sections of St. Elizabeth as well. But don't be fooled by all of these colors that we see across the north coast and western here. That is ground clutter, especially considering that we're not seeing much of that across especially the north and the west right here. Very interesting that we're getting in on some isolated showers right now, maybe across section of maybe southern St. Elizabeth, southern Manchester, section of Portland for sure. The Guantanamo Bay Cuban naval radar imagery confirming that rainfall that Portland is definitely receiving as we speak. Some definite moderate to some slightly heavy rainfall coming through as we see there. Not seeing much of anything right now across the western peninsula of Haiti, but we do see some isolated showers right here across portions of southeastern Cuba. Taking a look at the Cayman radar, not seeing much of anything across south central Cuba or western Jamaica, but we can make out some isolated shores right here to the west southwest of the Cayman Islands. Taking a look at what's happening right now according to the live camera from See Jamaica's YouTube channel showing 7:47 p.m. in halfway through. We can see people walking about, going about their business, people definitely in their vehicles getting ready to go. I think these are the downtown buses if I'm not mistaken for sure. Here we are, the streets showing all the roads. Busy halfway through as usual, traffic here and there. And this should be the order of the evening, fair conditions for sure, as we can see there, and this should continue throughout the evening for sure. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can still have 25 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Friday, temperature should dip down to about 23 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay as well as in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in the gray shades. And the gray shades, as we know, is similar to what we see here on the key on the right. 0, so it's not above normal with the yellows, oranges, or reds. It's not below normal with the blues or the greens. It's average temperatures. You know, the average temperature for the month of May across Jamaica is around 89 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's around 31.6 degrees Celsius. So that should be the temperature forecast for Jamaica on Friday. And we're grateful that there's not going to be any maintenance outage taking place. According to my JPS Online's Twitter page, we know that we usually have to highlight these because we know that when we're power outages somewhere, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. But even although there are no predicted or any forecasted outages, there can still be some crazy people on the road. This one took place a couple days ago. They stated we have received reports of a motor vehicle accident which broke a utility pole at the intersection of Legany and Paddington Avenue. These things can happen and then lead to power outages in our area. So even although they don't sometimes announce these and when they're coming, they can definitely occur when we least expect them with some crazy drivers on the road. Either way, we have some tips right here to beat the heat. It states here, seek shade when outside. Eat fresh, try eating cold foods such as salads and fruits. Rest, make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak, take a cool shower or a bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of keeping hydrated. Drink lots of water throughout the day, even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map. We know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we can see the abundance of dry air across the open waters of the Atlantic, the southwestern Atlantic, and the Gulf. We know the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain, making it harder for us to get storms this time of year in general. But what we like to see is the yellows. The yellows represents the low end of the scale in terms of dry air. Not to mention the blues that represents moist air in general. We see a lot of moist air across the intertropical convergence zone of the Atlantic and the Pacific. Moist air across the eastern to the central Caribbean, western Caribbean with the low end of the scale in terms of dry air. And that's what we want. We want the moist air, we want the low end of the scale in terms of dry air, so that we can get more rainfall to keep water in our pipes for sure. But regarding the Saharan dust forecast for 18 UTC on Friday, that's 1 p.m. on Friday, we can actually make out the browns that represent the Saharan dust in trailing all the way from Africa across the main development region into the southeastern Caribbean for sure. And we see the intensity numbers 15, 25, 9, 5, 12, 4, 10, definitely fluctuating at some points, but it is basically still the low end of the scale in terms of the Saharan dust. And we're also grateful that us over here in the Greater Antilles are in the clear, nothing for us, 1 p.m. on Friday. And we're also grateful that the brunt of the Saharan dust is remaining across Africa, right here, as we can see by the dark shades of brown that represent that vigorous plume of dust that can cause very hazy skies, not to mention trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses in some persons. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see a mixture of light shades of blues to dark shades of blues across the Gulf, the Bahamas, the Caribbean. That represents anywhere from 0.5 of a meter wave height all the way up to 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see the dull greens into the bright greens into the slight yellows. That represents anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15, maybe even gusting to 20 knots, especially right here across the northwestern Gulf. And we see the general flow of the winds coming in from the east for the most part, curving northwestward into the Gulf, so more of a southeasterly kind of flow as usual. But we're losing that northeasterly flow that would normally bring us that rainfall in the morning across the north coast. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. Do we actually get morning rainfall? Look at this flow, more of an easterly flow for sure. 14 knots on the north coast. Let's see on the south coast, 13 knots. And let's see what the waves would look like because of these winds. On the north coast, 14 knot winds should churn up the seas tomorrow up to 1.2 meter wave height. South coast, 0.8 of a meter wave height. And we know the closer to the coast we go, the lower the waves, especially with the lighter shades of blues, are 1 meter wave height to the south of St. Thomas, 0.5 a meter wave height right here to the south of St. Elizabeth. Very interesting. And we can see also that the easterly flow across the island is going to be causing the air to pile up across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. And whichever way the upper level winds are blowing from west to east, definitely bringing more overcast skies, if not isolated. Well, not definitely overcast skies, if not isolated shores across the island in that direction. So something similar to what we had happen today when we had these clouds being sheared off towards the east. We could definitely get some more of that tomorrow. And the actual rainfall forecast maps now, they didn't show much of anything in terms of rainfall for Friday morning, but Friday afternoon definitely looks festive in terms of the rainfall that's expected. As a matter of fact, the rainfall looks like it even starts across section of some parishes in the late morning hours, anywhere from between, let's say, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. But clearly it peaks out by around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 2 p.m. Jamaica time. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models showing a strong signal for rainfall as represented by the blues, even some dark blues and greens. Could that mean that we're going to be getting some isolated flash flooding? Would that mean that some freak storms could be in the forecast? It definitely is possible because these signals are high. Dark blues, greens, especially across section of northern St. Catherine, southern St. Mary, southern St. Anne, northern Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, section of Westmoreland, Clarendon, St. James, Trelawney, section of Kingston, St. Andrew, western St. Thomas, section of southwestern Portland. The Euro, on the other hand, showing that the rainfall is going to be across those very areas, but it is nothing like what the GFS is showing. GFS definitely a bit more robust with the rainfall for tomorrow. Even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps from the GFS are showing more rainfall within the next 24 hours compared to the Euro. Both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 3Z on Saturday, which is actually all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday. And we can see Jamaica on the Euro right here, shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges that represents from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall all the way up to right here that we see 0.57 of an inch of rainfall, mainly across section of the east, maybe Kingston, St. Andrew. The GFS more robust with that rainfall, especially across eastern and central Jamaica, going all the way up into the res represents up to 0.84 of an inch of rainfall. It could definitely be more than that. It could definitely be less than that. It's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out. But clearly, tomorrow is going to be the wettest day of the week so far for most areas in Jamaica. Tomorrow afternoon, if you're going out, bring an umbrella with you for sure. And whatever happens, we'll definitely take it. We are in the rainy month of May. Look at how the bar graph spikes as we jump into May. Rainfall is usually up there. As we can see, the bar graph right here showing Kingston shows us that we usually receive close to 140 millimeters of rainfall for this month. The bar graph showing Montego Bay shows that we usually receive close to 6 inches of rainfall for this month. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of May or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com and that website to show that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. You know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the math yourself. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have that usual thunderstorm activity across sections of Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, sections of Hispaniola, the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands definitely gotten on some amount of thunderstorm activity today. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images over there, you can actually make out that rainfall that portion of eastern portions of the Dominican Republic are receiving. Eastern Puerto Rico getting on some of the action as well. The waters to the south of the US, Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico definitely getting nailed with some bad weather. Fishermen out to sea or ships out to sea definitely getting that bad weather as we speak. You can also see some of the hit or miss isolated shores in and around St. Martin, Antigua and Barbuda, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique. And if we load these Doppler radar images from earlier today, you can see that section of central to eastern Puerto Rico definitely got on some moderate heavy rainfall. So to the US Virgin Islands, sections of Antigua and Barbuda with some hit or miss showers to the north, Guadeloupe getting on some of the action too. And if we take a look at the Barbados radar, not seeing much of anything happening across Barbados, the Grenadines or Grenada right now. But we do see some isolated showers coming into section of St. Vincent. Don't see much of anything across St. Lucia, but we do see some isolated showers coming into section of Martinique, Dominica right there. And if we look southward, we don't really see much of anything across Trinidad and Tobago. But if we take a look at the weather view of Doppler radar images, we can see some rainfall across northwestern Venezuela, maybe some rainfall right there across sections of western Colombia, Guyana, Suriname as well getting on some of the action. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that the most rainfall within the next 24 hours should be wherever we have the oranges and the red shading. Represents anywhere from 0.75 for an inch of rainfall up to an inch or more of rainfall. We're talking about areas such as southern Honduras, southern Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, sections of Colombia, western and southern Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, sections of Hispaniola, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, especially Puerto Rico, the US, and British Virgin Islands. Majority of the Leeward Islands getting on some of that too. We're talking about St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe. You see some isolated shores in store for Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, section of Dominica, section of Jamaica, southeastern Cuba, isolated shores for the Bahamas as well. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with this forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.